Hey guys, this is Anastasia, and this is my video for the Crow Moon Incense. March's full moon actually has a lot of different names that it can go by. The most commonly used name is the worm moon. There's also the crust moon, the Lenten moon, the chaste moon, and the sap moon. Those are the ones that I have heard the most, seen the most, all that kind of jazz. The name that I resonate most with, though, is it is a traditional name, but it's kind of a lesser used one, which is the Crow Moon. It is traditionally used because some Native American tribes, they would recognize the crows cawing around this time of year to represent the end of winter. That symbolism in and of itself is really what called to me. I've always kind of been attached to crows even before really honing in on my path and figuring it out or defining it on my own. And the more I thought of it, the more it connected to me. And I think that's kind of how we find personal correspondences, or at least me. That's how I do. I'll hear something or read something, and suddenly I'll start to think about it and analyze it. If it resonates with me, why does it resonate with me? What about it kind of connects? So when I heard the Crow Moon, and the reason it was called that was the cawing of crows represented the end of winter and the coming of spring, it really hit me that when it does come to crows, although crows are in Minnesota all year round, they never leave, and I'm sure they're that way most places, I really associate them more with autumn, especially late autumn and winter. It could be because we do have birds migrate, so really during the wintertime there's a smaller amount of birds around, so if I see a bird flying 9 times out of 10 it is a crow. But I think it also does deal with a bit of the spiritual side. The crone is really the goddess form for late autumn and winter time. And crone, for me, the crone aspect of the goddess is really, and crone goddesses in and of themselves, really connect to crows very well, I think. Wintertime is definitely death. Just laying it out there. That's kind of what it represents. That's kind of what it is for me, at least. Again, if anything I say doesn't really resonate with you, it doesn't have to. It's just kind of how I see it. The end of autumn is kind of the death cycle, and then when winter comes, it is kind of death. I don't know how else to phrase it. It's not coming off as eloquently as I was hoping, but it's what I got. So the fact that I see crows around and really acknowledge the crows and observe them more during this time of year, it kind of subconsciously connects me to that much more. Also, crows are synonymous with death. If we really think about it, how many cultures and how many stories are there of crows being messengers from this realm into the next, or them having the ability to carry a soul from this plane onto the next. They are connected to, some major death deities. You've got the Morrigan, who even has an aspect that is a giant crow, Bav. I personally really connect crows to hell, and I've spoken with a couple of people who also work with hell that see that as well, even though it's not technically a traditional correspondence that I've really read about. But it's something that connects me, and it is definitely something that I feel. So, having the crow be the symbol for the final moon of winter, which March is the final moon of winter, I thought that was beautiful, and I thought that was lovely, and it really spoke to me. In that same vein, I kind of thought it was poetic and rather beautiful, the thought that the crow moon would be kind of the last time when you could give honor or give thanks for the dark of the year and for the crone goddess giving you all the aid and help to get through the dark of the year, because it truly is a time when spiritually we can become stagnant and there are hardships to be had. So getting through the dark of the year, even in our modern times, it is something to be grateful for. It is something to honor and give thanks, I think. And I've kind of liked the idea of the final winter moon being a time to give her farewell and really send the crone on the way. Now, I also understand there's probably people out there whose heads are spinning, because Imbolc means the rebirth of the goddess, and she's in her maiden form at this point. And I get that. I think it's probably because I live in Minnesota, and we seriously just had snow here yesterday. Snow to the point where we had accidents. We had cars in ditches. I myself was 40 minutes late to work. It is a thing. Winter has not let go here. And so I see that as the crone still at work. While yes, the goddess is in maiden form traditionally at this point, for me, it's almost like the handing of the torch. The crone still has some energy. She still has some oomph, but after this moon, she actually, Ostara really for me is when she kind of hands that torch over and is like, okay, the maiden can officially take over from here. And I honor the same at Mabon. Mother hands the torch off to the crone. That's just something that I see. That's something that I resonate with. And I wanted to include it in the video just because I thought it helped explain why it is that the Crow moon really held a place for me. And it also is something that I incorporated into the crafting of this incense. I wanted to put a little bit of honor for the crone in there, even though we're focused probably a little bit more of the maiden at this point. Okay, now on to some traditional themes and correspondences for the Crow moon. Traditionally, and again, these traditional correspondences I got mostly from magicalrecipesonline.com and Luna's grimoire. Everything else is just kind of a hodgepodge of books and other things that I read. But those are my two major sources. So traditionally, during the March moon, we are supposed to be focusing on manifestation, on all the good things we kind of want to have come to fruition. With the snow moon, we had the purification, we had the cleansing. We kind of had that last time to, okay, the dark of the year is leaving, we're cleansing it, we're getting it out of our system, that stagnant energy can go bye-bye. And it kind of gives you that moment to let go of that which no longer serves you. In the dark of the year, I personally really focus inward, and that never ends. I certainly don't want it ever to seem as though I am someone where dark of the year I go inward, light of the year I go external. No, not at all, because I think the minute you stop working on one or the other is you kind of do become stunted. I think there needs to be that balance. I'm very big on balance. Cernunnos is a god of light and dark. He is hunter and hunted. He is all about balance. And Hel is half maiden, half crone. She is half light, half dark as well, and very much about balance. As a death deity, that's one of her major things, is keeping the balance. Christina actually just did a beautiful video on death, and it was kind of the story of Balder, and she just beautifully talked about Hel. So please check that out if you haven't. It's an amazing video. It touched me super hardcore, so much wisdom, so many insights. It was awesome. But yeah, balance is kind of a thing. So I in no way, shape, or form mean to make it sound like, hey, dark of the year is done, so now we get to go out and have fun and you don't need to focus on the inner stuff anymore. No, it's still there. At least for me, it's always there. It never goes away, and it shouldn't go away. But we can kind of look inward with the snow moon. I kind of looked inward. I guess I should keep it more focused on me. I looked inward and said, okay, so this is what I've been working on. This is what works for me. This is what has been working for me. This is what kind of maybe needs a little bit of tweaking. And this is stuff that, it hasn't been working. And if I can't figure out a way to tweak it, I need to let it go, because it's not for me. And kind of had a little ritual to do that. And I rededicated myself to Cernunnos and Hell. And it just kind of was this great time for renewal, and this great time for just this final preparation for the light of the year. So with this full moon, with the crow moon, I really want to focus on that light of the year aspect. So I've made preparation. I'm ready to go. Now is the time. What is it I want to do? I'm prepared myself. I'm ready to take it on, but I need to focus on what I need to take on. And it kind of works that way with Sabbats too. I find Imbolc is all about preparing my spiritual path and preparing myself for this, that, and the other thing. Then Ostara comes, and I actually can start planning, and I can start planting those seeds and start figuring things out a little bit more concretely. And then when Beltane comes, it's like, okay, action time. And so far with the moons, that kind of seems to be how it's working for me. Traditionally, this is the time you focus on manifestation. Magical Online Recipes had a great little ritual. If you wanted a simple ritual to do for the March moon, they do look at it as the worm moon, so it connects to that title a little bit more than the crow moon. But they suggest writing on a piece of paper something you want to see come to manifestation in the upcoming year or few months or what have you. You can, I'm sure, decide the time frame. A goal, a priority that you want to see come through, something that you want to come from thought into being. And you bury it in soil ground and kind of visualize the worms working around there and working its way into the earth, going around, bringing those intentions, bringing those wishes and hopes and goals down into Mother Earth so that she can bring it to fruition and she can manifest it with your help always. I'm a big believer that it's not as simple as, here, gods and goddesses, this is what I want, make it so. It's much more about you pulling your own weight and the gods and goddesses kind of working within you. Again, that's just my path. That's just what I think. Yeah. So, but I thought that was kind of a nice, simple, easy enough thing to do, but still very meaningful, very impactful, and I loved the imagery of it. So even though I don't connect fully with the Worm Moon title, I still really do enjoy the symbolism. It's just the Crow Moon connects a bit more. So with this incense, I wanted to incorporate those personal findings I had of, honoring the crone, honoring winter, honoring the dark of the year, sending it off, giving it that final thank you and farewell. And then I also wanted to focus on the fertility and the manifestation and the warm fuzzies, the prosperity, the abundance, all that good juju. I want it all coming my way and to the way of the people I love and my friends, my family. I want all that good stuff. So that is kind of what I've incorporated. So here we have my normal blend, and you'll notice it looks a little bit different. I used red sandalwood chips instead of the ground yellow sandalwood that I usually use. Why? Because the store had red sandalwood chips. It did not, Enchanted Boutique did not have the normal powdered yellow sandalwood. But the more I thought of it, the more I actually really kind of like it, because I like the energy of it. I like the red sandalwood kind of has a bit of spice. It has a bit of flair. It has a bit of warmth. And those are all energies I want to encourage. As much as I made a big deal out of, saying goodbye to the dark of the year and, hey, we're not out of it yet, so we do need to do honor to it. And the crone still has her energy flowing. I do still want to keep giving the sun and the god a little bit of oomph, a little bit of energy, even though it's the moon. I like it goes back to that balance. I like having that balance. And the red sandalwood is very much connected to the moon. It is a water element correspondence, but the red kind of brings a bit of that passion, a bit of that God energy. If Cernunnos were to have a sandalwood, it would be a red sandalwood. That was really odd phrasing, but I hope you know what I mean. Otherwise, it kind of looks the same. I actually did use, instead of apple, I used poppy seed in this. Mainly because I was out of apple. And there are times when we were crafting and for instance, I actually, sorry about that. I actually have my book out so I could show you. This is an entry I feel like I can show. If I can, I'm sorry, the camera's going out of focus on me. Here's a copy of my Lunar Incense blend. At the bottom, alt pieces, lily, poppy seed, hibiscus, violet, and wormwood. So I have it written here. So here's my major thing. These are the reasons why I'm using it. But if I don't have one of these, there's some alternatives that I can kind of sub in if I need to. I do that. It might be helpful for someone else as well. If it's not, oh well, let it be. But I thought that might be worth a show. So yeah. With this, because I was out of apple and I still wanted something to kind of connect to that underworld tone, because apple for me, although it is about knowledge, it is about beauty, it is about fertility and love, I think it is also very much a connection to that immortality. It is a connection to the dead. It's the food of the dead. It is, Samhain is the Feast of Apples. It's very meaningful when connecting to the ancestors. And when I got home and realized I was out of apple, I had a moment of, oh my gosh, but it needs to be in here because this is a thing. But poppy seed for me also really connects to that other realm. Not necessarily because of any traditional readings, like that poppy seed wasn't, well, poppy seed is part of remembrance because the red poppy is a remembrance for veterans. That's something that we still honor, that we still, it is a thing in our mundane lives as well, I guess is where I was going with that. It is a flower for remembrance, so poppy seed makes sense. It also, when I've worked with Hecate, it is very much something she liked me using. That sounds cuckoo, and I'm aware, but just roll with me. It was something that I used when I worked with her. It was something she still, when I craft things for my friend who, that is his matron, every time I sit down to make him something for her or craft something with her in mind for him, I hope you get my gist. I'm all over the place tonight. Poppy seed is definitely that thing that she's like, for me at least, it is very much a connector to her. I'm sure there are people who are far more educated on Hecate, and they probably know far better things that you can use, but for me, that was something that we connected. Dandelion leaf as well. Mandrake root was another one. Dandelions, period, were big. Garlic. Eggs were a really good offering. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I don't need to. My point is, Hecate, although she is still very much an underworld deity or goddess. She can travel to Hades. She's connected in the Persephone story. She definitely has her roots there. So I felt right, even though she is not a goddess, I connect to crows as I do with Hel or as I do with the Morrigan. And who knows, I'm sure there are people that do connect her, that could very well connect her with crows. But for me, it was more about the connection to the underworld. That was something that I wanted to do. So that's why I chose poppy seed, after a 15-minute dissertation. Sorry about that. So yeah, that was really the only difference in the lunar incense, was the use of red sandalwood and then using poppy seed instead of apple. So the next thing I have to do is add my 4 items for the specific crow aspects. And I had all these laid out pretty, and then I started talking and moved them. Here we go. Okay, so speaking of dandelion leaf, that is actually the first item I have to use for the crow moon. Dandelion leaf is good for, and these are traditional correspondences that I've found and kind of kept, summoning spirits, healing, purification, defeating negativity or overcoming negativity. If you burn it in the northeast corner, it is said to help bring favorable winds your way. And it also helps with wishes coming true. That was the major reason why I wanted to use it, was the wishes coming true. I also kind of like the idea of summoning spirits because, again, because this moon is so close to Ostara. For Ostara, I have a ritual of going through room to room and saying farewell to the winter spirits and welcoming the spring spirits to the home. So I kind of liked that aspect as well, the summoning of spirits, the summoning of the springtime, and bidding a fond farewell to the winter. There we go. And then the next item I have is patchouli. Now patchouli, and this is another like ground thing that I got from Enchanted Boutique. So it might not look like the regular herb because it's ground up and mushed up. Patchouli traditionally is for love, money, fertility, grounding, and growth. Now, aside from the fertility, which I think is good for manifestation and really letting these wishes and such take root, I like the idea of grounding and growth as well because this full moon is in Virgo. Virgo is really good for healing. Virgo is really good for education and learning and seeking, but it's also extremely good, not firmness, steadfastness, I guess is the best. Stability. There's the word I'm looking for, stability. So I like that grounding aspect and the growth because when I think of stability, I think of a tree where it continues to grow and yet it gives you that foundation. So we've got some patchouli in there. Sorry, I'm holding my phone and I'm sure that's not the best viewing for you guys. Elderflower. Next one I have is elderflowers, and sorry, fresh bag. This was an addition because of its connection to me for honoring the dead. It again is a way of honoring the crone, honoring the dark of the year, honoring the winter that has come and that is leaving. It's just a way of, I feel like I'm pounding a dead horse here. Oh God, that sounded horrible. Kicking a dead horse? Kicking a dead horse. There's the word I'm looking for. I just don't feel like I'm explaining properly. With the saying farewell or honoring the winter that's gone, I think it's because for me, my path is so much about embracing the darkness just as much as I embrace the light. For me, it's very easy to celebrate the light and give thanks for the light, metaphorically speaking, and literally, I guess, as well. in real life, if we're talking physical and literal terms, I'm terrified of the dark. I don't like the dark. I sleep with the night light. I sleep with the hallway light on and the door open. It is a thing. But also spiritually, it's really rough to understand, you know, the shadow and embrace the shadow as much as I embrace the light. So this past year, I feel like I'm starting to really get it and come into my own in certain aspects. So I want to thank that journey. And this winter has been really good for that progress. So that's kind of another reason why this is such a big thing for me, I guess. And I hope that makes sense to someone other than myself. I hope, if nothing else, it hasn't been boring me explaining all that over and over again. But Elderflower, it is good for sleep. It is good for protection, wisdom, house, as well as business blessing. It is used for the rites of death and dying. It is thought to protect loved ones on their way to the underworld. So again, it's kind of giving that final kiss to winter, to the dark of the year, to the crone, and honoring, a thanking, a respect. And a hope that, you know, they have a good rest, and when winter comes next year, we can embark and have a blessed journey again. I also do like the wisdom and the house blessing and the protection as well coming into the light of the year. So I thought that was good juju. Okay, and I've got that patchouli stuff all over the couch. Oh well, it'll work. The last item I am adding in, and this one might seem a little weird, it's cinnamon. Cinnamon is great for spirituality. It is great for success, which I thought, again, kind of fed into that manifestation and bringing things to fruition. It's good for healing. It's good for protection. It's good for power, love, luck, strength, and prosperity. It raises psychic vibrations as well as power, and it also aids with passion. I've talked about cinnamon. I don't know if I've reiterated it lately. I love cinnamon. It's a great all-around spice or whatever. Spice. It's a spice. As I try to open the thing without getting it all over. Because again, it's kind of a ground thing. I really like it for its protection. I love it for its heightening of vibrations. It also, for me, it brings a warmth. I definitely see it as aiding with giving energy where it needs to be revitalized. It almost is renewing for me. Again, those are more personal correspondences. Anytime I want to give the god or the sun or the light or day, I guess, for lack of better phrases, honor or respect, cinnamon is something that I will incorporate. During the light of the year, it's hard to me. I think my midsummer incense that I traditionally make has cinnamon. Lunasa has cinnamon. Mabon has cinnamon, even though that kind of is going into the dark of the year. Yule, because it's the rebirth of the sun, has cinnamon. I think just my Samhain and Imbolc. Yeah, because Beltane has cinnamon too. Yeah. And Ostara. Ostara does not have cinnamon. So Ostara, Imbolc, and Samhain are the only 3 Sabbath incense I make that traditionally do not have cinnamon in them. I just resonate very much with it. I love it. I think it's got so many great properties, and it smells really nice. It has a very nice scent when it's burnt. So yeah. So then I mix that in, and again, I'm kind of going clockwise because I want to bring in all the good juju and all the good honoring so that it will burn for the goddess. And then, as tradition, once that is done, I bind it with Maiden Mother Crone with gardenia oil for the goddess and for the moon. And then for the specifics of the crow moon, I'm going with cinnamon oil by the maiden, by the mother, by the crow. And both of those are essential oils. Like I said, I think I said that in one of my past ones after doing the candle making, it kind of hit me. I'm like, nope, I need to start using just essentials all the time. So, cinnamon and gardenia is not a typical pairing I would do. Cinnamon, or, well, I would do cinnamon and amber too. Oh my Lanta, that would be amazing. But gardenia and amber goes really well together, oddly enough. But actually, this is still pretty nice. It's a little different, but I'm good with it. So yeah, that is my crow incense, and it really doesn't look very moon. It doesn't really look very crow, but yeah, I'm going to cleanse and charge, and hopefully, well, I do. I feel good vibes from this, even though it doesn't look like a very traditional lunar incense. It's the intent that's behind it. That's one thing that has taken me years to really understand, because I am such a craft-based person that when I make a craft and it doesn't look like the intent that I wanted to have, I kind of freak out a bit. And it's slowly but surely getting through my head, even though it might look like something for the sun, if my intent is for the moon, that's what it will be. And like I said, this one also, because it is kind of in that half in dark, half in light, I don't mind it having a little bit of fun, even though it's for the full moon. But yeah, now that I've gabbed your ear off for about a half hour, I will leave it there. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful crow moon. I hope you guys put forth lots of great manifestation and wishes to come to fruition. I hope you have an amazing, amazing night. Like I said, Virgo is really good kind of for grounding and steadfastness. So I think that will pair really well with the energy of the manifestation. We can be grounded while we make these plans to take root. I think that's kind of a great pairing right there. So yeah, with that, blessed be. Bye, guys.